my mother. Can you imagine me being your son?
Yes.
It was not easy. But I believe I picked her. I really do, with all my heart. I think she was more than a mother. I think she was a star mate. I think she was a soul partner that had been in my journey and a part of my story for a long time. And I appreciate her. Also, always want to mention how blessed I was to have a biological as well as a spiritual mother, which was Mother Vita Hill in Detroit, Michigan. And I think of her today. This woman was probably, I don't know if she's 5 foot or not, but to me she was a giant in vision and faith, and the closest to manifesting the teachings of divine love and spirituality as anybody I'd ever met. So I honor my natural and my spiritual mother. I want to start by reading something today that I just think is so good. I think you've heard it before, but it's by Elaine Eisner. She says, if the central religious image was a woman giving birth and not a man dying on a cross, it would not be unreasonable to infer that life and the love of life, rather than death and fear of death, were dominant in society. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
To think what hangs around people's necks, statues in many cathedrals, edifices, is a man hanging on a cross as a symbol for our spirituality in Christianity, rather than to think of the miracle of birth and creation. So I think that's a powerful statement I just wanted to share with you today. I remember being in a cathedral rock in Sedona, Arizona. How many of you have been to Sedona, Arizona? You have to put that on your bucket list. I used to take groups there every year back in the 90s. We would all go from all over the country and spend time having spiritual meetings and touring and from the Grand Canyon to the many vortexes of Sedona. And the fact that Sedona was at one time the sanctuary of Native Americans of that area. It really was not meant to be built on by man, but it was a sacred space. It was their sanctuary. It is where they went for their worship. But anyway, there are 7 major vortexes there. One of them is the Cathedral Rock, which a little cathedral has been made for people just to come in and sit and meditate and contemplate. And the thing about it, at first I didn't care for, is when you look up, there's this huge crucifix of Jesus hanging on the cross. And even though that's something in my mind that I did not find a positive spiritual symbol, I was just mesmerized by it. I couldn't take my eyes off of it. It just fascinated me. And one time I went there and I just began to weep. I'm not easy to cry. So I was touched very deeply. And I thought, why am I so deeply touched by this crucifix in this cathedral? And I was just kind of looking and contemplating it. And all of a sudden I realized it was an interesting statue. It was made of silver. But the more I noticed, what I noticed about it, it had no eyes. The eyes were completely hollow. And I thought, it's symbolizing that the divine does not see me like I see myself. It doesn't see my faults, my idiosyncrasies, my failures as a human being, but only sees the higher spiritual essence of myself. I thought that it was just an experience that was very touching to me. All right, I'm going to try a joke. I don't think I did very good this week, but shoot. I got to keep Joe happy, so I try to come up with a little joke sometime. In a small farm town, one day the sheriff noticed that the Reverend was driving down the dusty road weaving. So the sheriff went after him and stopped him, and the sheriff said, "What's going on, Reverend?" To which the Reverend replied that he replied to the Reverend that he was tired and working so hard. Then the sheriff noticed a bottle on the driver's side and asked to see the bottle. "Oh, it's just water," said the Reverend, "to keep me hydrated." But the sheriff pulled the cork and smelled it, and it was wine, and pointed out to the Reverend. The Reverend then responded by saying, "Oh, the Lord did it again." I'm glad you got it. I didn't get it the first time. I'm going to do a talk today on universal law of mind. I think this is one of the great fundamentals of what we call New Thought, for a better term, or metaphysical thinking. And I realize I'm kind of a revelation minister / teacher. I teach big picture very well, but sometimes I just don't bring it back down to home, and I want to be able to give you some principles to ground you that you can work with, that can help you through this time. I do not believe that we truly understand our power. I really don't. And as I've said recently, that a lot of our power has gone to a separate God beyond ourselves. That what I call anthropomorphic God. Anthropomorphic. I love that word. I think it's a great word. And it just merely means a God we have created in our likeness. Not a God that created us in its likeness, but a creator that we have created in our likeness. And that's why we end up with the old man version of God in the sky. You know, sitting on the throne, looks human. You know, Leonardo da Vinci didn't help with the Sistine Chapel and the finger between this old man God and the man, Adam or whoever it was, didn't help that at all. But again, art has had a great influence on culture and cultural thinking. Pictures, for instance, statues, and so on and so forth, has painted an imprint of how we think things might have been. In HeartLight, it's a little more challenging, or in most metaphysical schools of thought, it's more challenging because we really don't quite know how to put a form on that which we call God in many cases, or creator, or the divine, the one. It's called many different things, and as you know, it's more abstract for us. It's more abstract. When you take out the image that God looks like us, human beings, then you don't know what God is. And you just have to know by faith that God is. And I've given you my definition, which I will continue to give you, which has been good for me. And that is, to me, what God is an undefinable, non-local consciousness interacting with itself. We know there's an intelligence. I've been watching a lot of great documentaries right now about the universe and how it was formed. It is just phenomenal. I don't know if I shared this, I think, with some of you, but I just learned that our most closest neighbor galaxy is Andromeda, which is 2 million light years away from us, and that's our nearest galaxy to our Milky Way galaxy that we live in. And light left there before human beings were even on the earth and is just now coming in, and if you look at it and through a telescope, you're just seeing light that is just now coming. It's been traveling millions of years into the universe. So you see, you don't have to go into some abstract spirituality to be overwhelmed or wooed or awed by the vastness of things when you just understand the vastness of creation and what it is. Now, the thing between us and Darwin's type of evolution is that they believe that all this just happened by pure chance. Things just happened out of nowhere. A little dot showed up and exploded into the Big Bang, and we have galaxies and stars and whatever. But to me, that makes no common sense to realize that the vastness of it all had to have an intelligence to it. There had to be an intelligence as to what that energy would have become as a galaxy, a universe, a star, a planet. That can't be random. There had to be an intelligence. And that's pretty much what we call the Creator, is an intelligence of a consciousness that begin to put all of this energy together into the world of matter, which, by the way, is very small. So all the vastness of 200 billion galaxies and 300 billion stars and on it goes, is still a very small amount of energy in the universe. The rest of it, most of it, 90% of it, is just called dark matter. That means it's not a star, it's not a galaxy, it's not anything at all that is materialized, is mostly unmaterialized. So, I mean, that's just vast to me. It's just vast to watch that. And you that are interested in that type of thing, there's some really good ones on Netflix and some other things like that really explains a lot of this. But what I want to say to you is we just, to me, do not understand our power. And we in New Thought have pretty much taken a lot of our power back from gods and entities outside of ourselves. This is where I think people need to walk softly and carefully, even with the ideas of things in the heavens having power and influence over us. As you know, I promote astrology and astronomy and all of the things about the constellations, Pleiades, and whatever, but not to the point that they have total power over me. I am the center of my power. Say it with me. I am the center of my power. Again. I am the center of my power. Did you get that? What's the center of your power? The I am. And the third time? I am the center of my power. Claim it. We teach in New Thought one power. One power, and that power is good. Now, the fact that we have the free will to use that one power in different ways, we have split it into ways of using it that's not in alignment and ways that are in alignment, which we interpret as good and bad, or good and evil, or whatever. But actually, it is the same power. A lot of people talk about bad power. A lot of people talk about evil spirits. There's only one spirit, and spirit inherently is not evil. Let me give you an example that I get with that. Let's say there are, remember projectors? Projectors? And let's say you have two movies. And the light is the spirit, okay? And the light is neutral. You can't say light intrinsically is good or bad, evil or good, can you? It just is. Light is just light that runs through the projector. But let's say you have two movies. One movie is so uplifting and beautiful, and you so enjoy it, and you say, oh, what a good movie that was. Now, on the same projector, the same light, you put on your second movie, and it is a horror movie. People are being slashed, and blood is running, and it's just horrible. And you say, oh, what a terrible, horrible movie. It wasn't the light that was neither the good movie or the bad movie. It was just the light that projected two different stories. Are you with me? So that's why we say intrinsically there is no evil or good. There only is. But we, each one, are a story. Some of you have a good story. You raised in a nice family. You raised with a mom and dad who loved you and supported you. You did not suffer for food, and everything was good. You got a good story. That's a good movie. But some of you who were abused, misused, abandoned, that's not such a great story, right? So what are we going to identify? The story or the light or life that runs through the story? That's why meditation can be so important, because if you do it, and I want to say that I want to start with the silent meditation, which I was going to do today, but didn't. And I'm going to say 10 o'clock. Now, if that's just too early for you, too bad. And I don't care if it's just one of us or two of us. I don't care. But over in the lighthouse, in the room, we've called the bride room. Now it's the all-purpose room. At 10 o'clock, we are going to do silent meditation. Now, the silent meditation will last as long as you want within the confinement of 30 minutes or so. If you feel like 20 minutes is enough, you can walk out or whatever. But we just got to start somewhere. And I know, because you see what we're doing here, and we've all said this, is not meditation. This was visualization. When we get up and we go by the brook and we see the green grass and we do the trees and we do all of that, and that's a good group thing for us to do on Sunday morning. I'm not against that. I'm for us doing that, because then we're using our mental faculty. That's good, to visualize and use your mental faculty in seeing things that are peaceful and are good. But that's not really what meditation is. Meditation is entering into the state of the light beyond the story. Right? So it really takes coming into a state of stillness. Be still and know. Stop. Be still and know. Stop. Be still and know. Stop. Don't even describe it. And some of you are saying right now, oh, but I just have a mind that just goes this way and way. Practice the presence. Practice the presence. And I'll be glad to talk to you a little bit about the fact that you don't really have to stop all your thoughts. You just have to be the observer of your thoughts, because you are the true stillness within your mind. So anyway, I know it's not for everybody, but whoever feels the importance of this having a space of silent meditation, you may join me at 10 o'clock. I don't know how I'm going to work all of this in, but I'll get it in as much as I can, but we will do it. For the way Tim and I was trained was to transcendental meditation of pure silence, no music, no nothing, for 20 minutes twice a day. Now that is what they came up scientifically that makes a difference, to start changing the brain into something that's called neuroplasticity. Anybody want to know what I mean? Neuroplasticity, that we're learning how to change the makeup of the brain, of even old memories and whatever. We can change it in that way. But it takes that still. Anyway, that's not what I'm going to talk about all morning. But I am concerned about HeartLight right now and the advantages that we have. So since I'm on it, I got one more thing to say to us. Last week was absolutely wonderful, and I thought very successful with the children. Dorothy did a great job. Those who were over there did a wonderful job. But now, like everything else, things start settling and changing, and some are backing off and say they don't want to do it anymore. In other words, there's a lack of commitment. And what we have to decide, how important it is us to have a youth program here at HeartLight. You have to decide, is it important enough for you to step up and commit and to be willing to be there and be a part of it or not. Right? And I just want to say that because I feel that we're being given an opportunity to touch some young lives after the last 2.5 years of what these kids have been through, and we can have a place of helping them to readjust into a new norm. Yeah, we need, and I'm willing to go over there and talk to them. I want them to know. And we have kids here that have not good stories already. I know that. I know a few. And they have to realize they don't have to be defined by their story. They had a dad who left or a mom that put them out or whatever went on. They don't have to be defined the rest of their life by that story. And Dorothy, that's what I want us to teach it down to a level that they can understand it. We need to teach them to know who they are. Most of the kids over there are either developing first or second and a few third chakras. Huh? Some of them are still dealing with tribal stuff. Some are in school being bullied and dealing with other kids and relationships. Some of them don't like themselves anymore. Third chakra, solar plex. And you can't tell me that's not important enough for some of you to give a little of your time, a couple of Sundays a month, to go over there and help these children to find their way in a new world that we're living in and to understand the spiritual principles of life. That's all I have to say about that. And it will be what it's going to be. I totally detach from any outcome, and if it kind of fizzles away, it just does, and it's not for us at this time. I do find a certain complacency here that concerns me in HeartLight by you that are 60, 70, and 80 years old, and you've retired. You're pretty comfortable, so some of you. You have enough to live on and do what you want to do, but that doesn't mean in the spirit realm there is a retirement program. In God's economy, God doesn't retire us. Now God wants you to use all that 60, 70, 80 years of experience and turn it into your ability to empower others and help others. So I don't like this thing, I've done my thing and I worked and I did that. God's work is never, never done. So I say that from my heart and with love to all of you. There are things here that you can do and be a part of that is bigger than yourself and your own lives. Okay, well, I'm going to start this, but I'm not going to finish it. I'm going to continue it. So we'll just start with it. Wonderful breakthrough, and I think for you that I've shared this with, also share my breakthrough, is I've realized that for so many years we've all had this different reaction every time we have to say the word Lord. Lord. There's something about the word Lord that sounds like something is lording over us. That we're under the control of something. And it's in so many songs and so many, as part of the language of religion itself, is Lord. But I heard something one day, just by chance. And instead of saying Lord, they said law. And I had a witness and an epiphany in me that that's what metaphysically Lord is divine law. So I'm going to say Lottie, Lottie. Instead of Lordy, Lordy, it's Lottie, Lottie, Miss Clottie. Isn't that some old song? I don't know. That's from my childhood. And I thought, that's it. That's it. So it's the law of God. The law of God is the orderly working of the principles of being. I'm going to take my time with this because this is some good stuff. The law of God is the orderly working out of the principles of being. Not having, not accomplishing what you don't have, but it has to start with the state of being. It's not about having love. It's about being love and love becoming. Or the divine ideals into expression and manifestation throughout creation. That is a quote from Charles Fillmore. Spiritual law is eternal and real. It's only man's error in beliefs and thoughts that eliminate the purity of it into an error of the mind. When you do not think in alignment to divine principle, you're in error of mind. Or what religion would call sin consciousness. Right? Using the right definition of sin. Come on, this has turned out to be a lesson here. Listen. The word sin. Isn't it interesting? I mean, the church I grew up, everything was a sin. Women who wore lipstick was a sin. Just wearing lipstick. A woman would wear any kind of non-dress was a sin. Dancing. Every little thing, every little idiosyncrasy was considered a sin. Right? And yet they never looked at the word. Where did this word come from? Why can't people think? And instead, they let their preachers think, their schools of theology, the schools of the seminary think. And most of all, they let the Bible do their thinking. There's a place in the Bible that says, you think the scriptures are true, but they only testify of me. In other words, it's saying the Bible isn't a destiny. It's not the all authority, but it is one of the tools, if it's properly decoded, becomes a tool to the essence of the Logos in us. Somebody tell me what Logos is. It's Greek for word, the Logos. In the beginning was the Logos. In the beginning was the Word. And the Word, you can't have a word until you have a thought. Try to have a word without a thought. And the Vedas even go one step further and say, first was the sound, then the thought, then the word, and the word was made flesh and manifested. Sometimes all you can say is when you don't get it up here and might say, You ever done that? Like, what? First is a sound. And now the sound is patterned into a thought. Huh? Logos, the Word. What is the Word? The law of God. The law of mind is the Word. This says you cannot change that. You cannot contaminate it. Only man's error or beliefs, who is in a sin consciousness, meaning, I'm sure somebody could tell you this, at the time of translation. And I watched some of these. I love the shows. I'm trying to think of the ones I like that were, back Henry the Eighth and all of that time, the kings and the France and England and all that period. They're not playing football. They're doing bows and arrows, archery. That is the was the king's sport. That was people who were somebody. Learned archery and went to archery games because they were all trying to be proficient in hitting that bullseye. And that was the word translated sin. Missing the bullseye. When you're off into human thought and error from divine principle or divine law, you're in a state of missing the nature that is innately inherent within you, and you've missed the mark. What does that mean? Mark. Do you realize that comes from a Greek word? Charagma? Charagma. You say, well, that's Greek to me. But you might understand it more from the word in English, character. C-H-A-R-M-G-A, charagma, character. When you miss your true character, are you with me? Your true nature. When you're not in alignment with human thought, with who you were created to be as the expression of the one, you are missing your mark and you're off into another nature. Human nature. And unfortunately, human nature is still in a need of evolving itself because it has not reached the level of vibration of what has been created. Therefore, where we are in the physical evolution of ourself is not one or at one with what's been created. Human is here, divine is here. And we keep trying. See, this is why I'm against just learning it mentally. You can learn the principles of new thought and all these things, but until you match, until you've raised the human mind or consciousness to the level of spiritual mind, because it is through this mind that this manifests and is made flesh into your life. Now think about it, folks, and be real. You know a lot of good stuff. Some of you have been around the block a few times. Some of you have been under unity teaching, science and mind teaching for decades and been reading books and workshops and done all kinds of things. But when it comes to the manifestation of all you've learned and all you know, we're a little short of the glory. Now let's be real about it. Quit fooling yourself and thinking, well, I know it. I do affirmations about it. I talk to my friends and family who will let me about it. But my life does not show what I mentally know from a separate human point of view. Again, spiritual law is eternal and real. That's the real reality. Man's error and beliefs and thoughts is what can eliminate it through the error of his mind. We have to heal the error of mind. Science of mind has that one down beautifully in the form of demonstration or treatment. Course of Miracles hit the jackpot. They got the bullseye. That's two I know of. Course of Miracles says the healing of my mind is the healing of my brother's mind. Upon that statement, I integrated it into training our practitioners in a course in Soma Energetics. If you want to go work with somebody and bring them back into a state of wholeness, it starts with you, not them. I've taught them, you don't go before you go work on a client and you've just been on the phone with your significant other and had an argument and they pissed you off and now you're angry and upset, and then you're going to walk in there and start using tuning forks on a client. And here's why. I want you to get this. Because sound is a carrier of consciousness. Say it. Sound is a carrier of consciousness. Now that doesn't just happen with a client, but it happens with your significant other, the way you speak to them, your children, the way you speak to them, and each other, the way you speak. The tone you use will carry your consciousness to them. If you speak in soft, loving, judgmental tones, you'll transfer it through the voice to them. Right? So yelling at the kids, screaming at the kids, is just making them worse. You're just feeding the situation. In the Bible it says a soft answer turneth away wrath. I believe that's a scripture. A soft answer turneth away wrath. I see this is going to be a long message later. So healing the error in our mind is where it all begins. Why? And it says why, and this is scientifically through quantum physics proved, because at some level all consciousness is in communication with all other consciousness. Think of your consciousness out here, Beth's consciousness is out here, Jim's is out here, but if we follow the spokes in, it emerges into the hub of the field of oneness. We're coming out here. I don't believe what you believe. I don't like what you believe. And we're out here and we got all this space out here. We're just throwing darts at each other and whatever. But if we would learn to come in to where we are one consciousness, one mind, we could begin to heal the world. And it begins with your world and my world. By understanding creation, or that creation is all that is, and knowing it is good, becomes one of the most essential fundamental principles of divine law that there is. See, I don't believe that. Doesn't matter. You're not going to change it. It is. Well, I don't believe in gravity anymore. I've started a whole church, anti-gravity people. That gravity is fake news. Just don't believe in it. I can't see it. It's not so. But you know what's going to hold you in that seat? The gravity you don't believe in. Because it's a law of nature. And it will hold you where it is. There are spiritual laws that we will get into. Law of mind may be described in 3 steps. First, mind, idea, and manifestation. Now, we have to make it clear, this is where they've screwed us all up. The ego system I'm speaking of is to confuse us with mind and brain. 99% of people, if I said point to your mind, will do this. Not so. So we have to understand the mind. What is the mind versus the human brain? It is subjective law, or soul. The soul is the subjective part of the mind. The spirit, which is divine mind, wants to give itself to the subjective mind of the soul Because the subjective mind will take whatever it is given and it will form it. And it'll make it. If the spirit part of us, divine mind, would choose to give us a seed for asparagus, the subjective mind, which would be the earth or the ground or the garden, would take it and make that seed become what the seed is. So that's what's important, is what seeds are we sowing? That we end up with a garden of a bunch of weeds that tend to choke out some of the good things we've done. So we have to understand the difference between the subjective mind. The subjective mind is something we cannot see, and I want to give you a good scripture here that you should have that's important. One of the great scriptures that is beyond religion as far as I'm concerned. 2 Corinthians 4:18. When we look not at the things which are seen, but look at the things which are not seen, for the things seen are temporal, but the things not seen are eternal. Isn't that a good one? How many heard that preached in your churches? So what we want to do here in this series that we are opening up to you today is dealing with the law of mind and how it works. It is said that God can do anything. Yes or no? If God is divine mind, spirit law, then that's all that God can do is divine law. One time, the adversary came to Jesus and said, I know you're hungry, because he'd been led in the wilderness to fast for 40 days. You that remember that story? And the old devil showed up, which is his own ego mind or whatever you want to call it, and says, you know what? You've got the power, if you wanted to, that you can change the stone into bread. And people thought, if God can do anything, why would he starve when he could take and make the stone bread? But you see, one of the great laws is you can't make things out of things. You have to make things out of the subjective level. So Jesus couldn't do it because he was not operating in divine mind. That's why you cannot expect people to get healed from a body-mind consciousness. You have to bring the unseen, which is the wholeness of the person. The subjective mind carries the thought of the Spirit that I am whole, and through that it starts manifesting because that word becomes flesh and dwells among us. But we see somebody sick, we want to make them well. I would not think, and I've been in this healing thing all my life, as I told you, drug around from Oral Roberts to miracle healers to all kinds of things, and I've seen it all. And I would say after the 60, 70 years that I've observed this whole healing practice, that it has not been the most successful system. Even with yourselves, is everything getting healed you're asking for? Be honest. Don't fool yourself. Don't stick your head in the sand. Of course not. Who's not sitting here with something? Some arthritis, some pain somewhere, a knee issue, a shoulder issue, hip issues, whatever. I guarantee we all have something. And I bet if we thought that the power of praying for that would take care of it, wow. And we don't have to make excuses for it. What we need to do is heal the error of our mind and find a way that we can align ourselves to the divine principle or divine law and let it work through the subjective mind or the soul and plant the right seeds into the garden of our human consciousness. You don't make things out of things. Stars do not come out of stars. Suns do not come out of suns. Planets do not come out of planets. They come from the vacuum of the universe. The vacuum of the universe. From the unseen, the invisible, the things of the material world of matter is made manifest. That's why the universe is a wonderful metaphor for what we're calling God, because it knows how to do it. I mean, just what I'm telling you about all these suns and planets and galaxies and whatever, I thought, wow, that is amazing. What an intelligence that has brought this forth out of the void, the vacuum. But the great news is the vacuum's not empty. The vacuum is a plenum. It's just teeming with electrical pulses of possibilities. Call it God if you want to. That's fine with me. That's the God I am dealing with. So I'm closing. Remember, out of thought, Jesus was not able to try to manifest bread out of stone, whereas the bread was the first idea of mind. Somebody made the bread, had a recipe, an idea, put the idea through and manifested bread, and now, and the earth made the stone. But you can't make things out of things. Again, another reason to practice silent meditation of connecting into the void and the vacuum of all possibilities in some way. One more. An understanding of God or universal mind is key to all scriptures and occult writings. Again, I want to make this clear to you, occult is not a bad word. They've done a job on us on that. Because they think when we're saying occult, we're saying cult. Two different things. I'm not want to be in a cult. A cult means I'm transferring my power to one thing or one belief that has power over me. In the story of creation as told by Moses, which is metaphysically correct, it states all things were brought into manifestation by saying, God said, God thought, God's idea. For us to know what is a divine idea for HeartLight is for us to tap in to the source of divine thought. It holds the plan and the purpose. And then we align ourselves and heal ourselves of any error of thinking that is not in alignment with it. And then we can see manifestation happening here that would absolutely astound us. Please don't be like religion. You know what's wrong with religion and religious preachers? They've got God on hold. God can't do anything till you die. God can't do anything till you go to heaven. Let's push the button and take God off hold. Now, I'm in a place of all these years of ministering. I'm probably most likely in the last of my places for ministry, and I'm ready to see something happen. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't want to play church with you. If you're looking for a Sunday morning feel-good church, we're just not the one, or I'm not the one for you. Let's do the work. Let's do the work. Let's pray. Affirm. I say yes to divine mind. The mind who had the first idea of itself and said, oh my goodness, I am. Wow, I exist, I am. And that idea was so powerful and held all of the power of the one who thought it, that it couldn't contain it in the idea, and the idea exploded into the Big Bang of millions and billions of light particles that becomes us, floating down from the high states of higher frequencies of vibration on its way down. And finally, in that journey 2,000 years ago, one of those sparks incarnated finally into the density of human error itself. For God so loved the world, He gave His only begotten Son. Why? To heal the sin of the world. The error. The error. Heal our erroneous thinking and beliefs that are not in divine alignment. Let our human mind be the soul of the Spirit. The subjective that knows not right or wrong, good or bad, but takes the seed of the pure divine mind and begins to form it, shape it, impregnate us, until it is birthed as the living word or manifestation. Some of us are not ready to go yet. Some of us do not feel that we have accomplished our full and complete assignment in this lifetime. And teach us how that we can participate as a co-creator on choosing to live healthy, prosperous lives to fulfill that. Holding off degeneration, death, illnesses and diseases that would take us and abort us until we are fully fulfilled in this lifetime. Check in with yourself. Do you feel finished? Do you feel like you're just ready to lay down and give it all up? Are you at the end of the road? I bet not. I bet you still got some fire in your belly. I bet you still got some ideas you'd like to see done. I think you still have some aspirations that you want to see accomplished. I just say, oh death, where's your sting? Oh grave, where's your victory? I'm of the resurrected. Blessed are we in the first resurrection. Raising our vibratory and our frequency while we have a chance right now. Putting our hand to the plow and plowing up the fertile ground of complacency. It's over. I'm too old. Those are erroneous thinkings. I'm doing exactly what my dad did when he dropped dead of a heart attack at 61. That's recorded in my thinking. I'm not ready. I'm not ready. Choose life today. Choose life today. And not life so you can sit on the porch and rock in your rocking chair, waiting for life to just be put into your lap. Some of you've got such rich stories. I don't care if your story was abuse. I don't care if you're sexually abused. Whatever your story is makes it a rich story. that could help millions of people if you shared it. Turn your lead into gold. Turn your weakness into your strengths. You don't have to act like something you're not here. Take off your new thought garment. Take off your metaphysical clothing that you hide yourself under of positive thinking until and wait for it to become real. Real. I'm really experiencing it. Holy Spirit, just minister to us. Just minister to us in this moment that we give you right now. Minister to our bodies, our minds, our spirits. Travel through our Akashic records of all of our stories, of all of our incarnations. Heal us of our error. Things we have validated that we believe that are not in alignment with the knowing of our spiritual mind. Be still and know I am God. I am. I am. I hear Spirit saying to say to you, your life has not been in vain. There are not as many mistakes as you think that you have made, but all of them has been a part of a teaching, a molding and shaping and preparing you for a day that is dawning. No, I gotta shut up. It's getting late. Maybe later than you think. But the gods come in the 11th hour. Greek mythology. And the gods come in the 11th hour. When it looks like it's the darkest and the worst, the gods show up. Michael shows up. Uriel shows up. Gabriel shows up. All of the great guides, ascended and descended masters of 100% pure light are ready to show up and say, go for it, I'm with you. I'll support you. I got your back. Just take a deep, deep, slow breath. Settle into this time together this morning. Let your mind settle into the words that have been given to us today. This is communion. Eat of the flesh of the Word. Drink of the wine of the Spirit. This is communion. This is union. Do you feel it? Do you feel presence? Do you feel presence? We're going to walk out of here different than we came in today. You're going to have a different week than you had last week. Thank you, God. Thank you. And so it is.